Good afternoon and welcome. For opening today's presentation, I would like to ask you, and as per usual, I would like you to answer to yourself as honestly as you can. Do you consider to yourself that you have difficulty in forgiving others? People do things and you feel like it's difficult to forgive them. You have very well listened to this piece of advice that people say that in order to be able to let go of things, you must learn to forgive. And furthermore, they will claim that one must learn how to forgive oneself first if one is to forgive others. And you have tried it many times, yet you feel like it's not working. You have meditated, you have thought through it, and you keep on relapsing on these emotions of anger and frustration, perhaps sadness, and you ruminate on these thoughts, on these memories in the past. Perhaps someone did something to you, and you have realized what your flaws and how you have reflected on that is exactly, but nonetheless it just keeps coming up. What if I told you that the main problem is that you're trying to forgive? Today's presentation is a special one. I am dedicating this video to the great Redeemer, Jesus Christ of Nazareth, the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. Today is 26th of December 2025, and I initially intended to record this on the 25th, but conditions did not allow. Yet today I was gifted with such a beautiful day that it only made but much sense to record. And the topic of today's presentation is the higher faculty of compassion. Now, I would like to tell you a story from the teachings of Jesus, which opened my eyes regarding forgiving and what compassion is. As I had come to a realization at some point that forgiving was not working, and there must have to be something else, something different, that was the key to all of this suffering. And so the story goes as follows. You may perhaps have listened to this. It comes from John number 8. And the story's title is A Woman Caught in Adultery. And I quote, Jesus returned to the Mount of Olives, but early the next morning he was back again at the temple. A crowd soon gathered, and he sat down and taught them. As he was speaking, the teachers of religious law and the Pharisees brought a woman who had been caught in the act of adultering. They put her in front of the crowd. Teacher, they said to Jesus, this woman was caught in the act of adultery. The law of Moses says to stone her. What do you say? They were trying to trap him into saying something they could use against him. But Jesus stooped down and wrote in the dust with his finger. For those who are not well acquainted To stoop down, it's the opposite as standing, it's to come down, may perhaps some sort of kneeling. They kept demanding an answer, so he stood up again and said, "All right, but let the one who has never sinned throw the first stone." He stooped down again and wrote in the dust. When the accusers had heard this, they slipped away one by one, beginning with the oldest, until only Jesus was left in the middle of the crowd with a woman. Then Jesus stood up again and said to the woman, "Where are your accusers? Did not even one of them condemn you?" "No, Lord," she said. And to this Jesus said, "Neither do I. Go and sin no more." What this story is trying to teach us is that Jesus did not forgive the woman. He went beyond forgiving. Because what you must understand is that when you forgive, you must first condemn. When you condemn people, is when you already have engaged in these feelings of wretchedness and anger and frustration, and perhaps you feel superior, or you feel like you have it right and that others owe you. And I will repeat this in a different phrasing. In order to forgive, you must first condemn. When I learned this, it opened my eyes, as I had lived many years in true wretchedness from my experiences in the past, especially with romantic partners. And I realized that I do condemn very often without realizing. And we could relate this to a tree. To forgive people is to cut the little branches of the tree, but these branches of pain will keep them sprouting. Condemnation is the trunk of the tree. You must cut condemnation off your life in order to be truly free. And the only remedy to remove condemnation is through the higher faculty of compassion. To be compassionate is to understand people, and as psychologist Marshall Rosenberg, he developed this idea of nonviolent communication, which I highly suggest you to research on your own. I may make a video about this in the future, yet it's not in my plans right now. And he said in his ideology, or even we could say it's a philosophy almost, that everything we say and everything we do, ultimately it's a tragic and suicidal expression of an unmet need and feelings. It is that when we are in pain, we say things, and we only ultimately try to hope that the other person will understand by even perhaps insulting them. Insults are just words, but there is pain through these words that you must go through and capture the essence of what the person is trying to tell you. They are saying, "I am in pain, you did this to me, and I didn't like it. Will you understand me? Or even this is reflected in actions such as revenge. Because people are so desperate that they do not know any other means to express their pain. Just imagine, and you have done this before, you have felt this before, how desperate you were in order to engage, to indulge into these actions. We all have committed sins. We all have done terrible things. Now, I'm not suggesting that you should never learn how to forgive. I think forgiveness should come last. First, to develop your faculty of compassion is to become more whole, to become more understanding of why people do things, why people say things, to understand how they think, to understand how they act, to understand how they feel. And you must, by all means, first learn how to develop your higher faculty of compassion within yourself. Have self-compassion by understanding thyself first. You must learn to understand yourself and your feelings. What makes you feel like what exactly? Why? In which cases? When exactly? Understand yourself first. Do you think you understand yourself completely? I think to understand oneself is the most difficult thing we could ever do. And somehow we believe we can know others better than they do know themselves. That's why this world ends up in being such a chaotic and hasty mess, with egos inflated and much pain, because people are scared on learning about themselves, on admitting things, and understanding that we suffer, and it just takes to communicate it. And we do communicate it, even through the worst actions you may see. It is still its only means of communication that this person came up with. But we have been given a great tool, which is language and clarity, reason. You have a faculty of reason. Use these things to put away every form of negative language that you know only makes things worse. It is fuel. When we use swear words, when we do actions that we know it's going to hurt someone because we have heard this from them, that it hurts them. Don't engage in this. Don't come so low. Learn to understand them. Learn to not condemn people. If you learn to not condemn people, you will never have to forgive. There's nothing to forgive. The Redeemer, Jesus Christ of Nazareth, he asked, "Where are your accusers? Didn't even one of them condemn you?" And she said, "No, Lord." For what he answered, neither do I condemn you. Go and sin no more." He showed compassion. Compassion, personally, I believe, for myself at least, is the highest faculty we possess. How easy it is to condemn. How fast we condemn people, even through the smallest of actions. For this Christmas presentation, I would like to invite you to observe your own behavior and try to ask yourself, how do you truly feel? Do you practice compassion to yourself. On the presentation of self-abandonment, I discussed the use of your higher faculty of imagination to project an image of a smaller child, which is a representation of a younger you. And through this projection, you can see a lot of how you truly feel, how you truly see yourself, because this child is speaking to you. It's telling you if he sees you as a form of admiration or someone that he will strive to become, or if he feels no respect towards that person. If he feels like when this child does something wrong, is he going to be immediately condemned and waiting for forgiveness and just crossing his fingers that he will not have to go through the same pain, or that he can go on well in life and he shall never be condemned because you have such a big heart? And it's just the understanding, mutual understanding, that you did something that made me feel like this. I condemn you not. Understand the pain that you have done unto me. And I strongly believe that when people, such as Marshall Rosenberg suggested, when two people connect at heart level, the solution finds itself. Soon we are having New Year's Eve, and I hope that you enjoyed a beautiful and joyful Christmas. And such as well, I hope that your next year is full of adventure and joy, and that every single dream you have comes true. But remember, everything happens from the smallest of steps, and you have infinite potential energy that you can transform into infinite kinetic energy. You are great. You can do everything you strive for. Thank you so much for joining me today, and from beautiful Iceland, I wish you to be on well.